Welcome to LawNext. This is Bob Ambrogi, and this is another in a series of interviews I'm recording here at the Clio Cloud Conference. I'm set up here with all of my recording gear, and I've been speaking to some of the Clio executives as well as some of the attendees and exhibitors at the show. And right now I am joined by Curt Sigfstead, who is the Chief Financial Officer of Clio as of a little under a year ago or so, right?
That's about right, Bob. Yeah, I joined January of this year, so 10 months.
And the last time I talked to you was January of this year, right after you came on. We sat down and had a little bit of a chat. I know there was a few questions I was asking you then that you were kind of saying, well, I don't know yet.
I'll have to come back.
I got to get into the job first.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Thank you, Bob.
A chance to catch up and talk a little bit about it. But I mean, why don't we just start with a little bit about your background? Because you didn't come out of the legal industry. You worked in financial services, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, my previous role, I was the Chief Financial Officer of a fintech based out of Toronto called Clearco. And but prior to that, I spent 22 years at J.P. Morgan as an investment banker, technology investment banker, focused on enterprise software, vertical SaaS, and broadly SaaS in companies predominantly in the United States, but also around the world. So brought that expertise plus my experience as a CFO and to Clio in early part of this year.
So what was it that brought you to Clio? How did you come from that background that you had and make the move to Clio?
Well, I think, a couple of things. First of all, it's really the meeting of the minds between your founder, CEO, Jack, in this case, and myself. And I think there were a couple things Clio was looking for. One was Rob was retiring, the previous CFO, and so obviously the need for the CFO was up in the air. Two was Jack was looking for someone who had a broad experience with public markets, institutional investors, also kind of a broader strategic sort of M&A set of experiences, just given Clio's recent history. Three was knowledge of vertical SaaS and SaaS in general. That's not as sort of available in the marketplace. And last was payments, and I had been at a fintech company, and given Clio had introduced Clio Payments and was moving to offer more financial services, eventually that sort of all fit.
Yeah. And so as CFO at Clio, what are your areas of responsibilities?
So I have responsibility for all accounting, all FP&A, legal, all corporate development, M&A, Clio Ventures, and I'm currently operating as the Chief People Officer. So I have all of the people responsibilities, HR as well.
As if that other stuff wasn't enough to keep you busy.
Well, Jack said that, and he didn't offer me a pay raise either. So I have both for now, and it's been working pretty well actually. We've been able to get there's a lot of synergy between finance and the people team, and we've been able to make that work to our advantage.
Right. So does that mean that you have not the people officer part, but do you have a role then in Clio's partnerships with third party?
Not as active, no. In terms of like the app ecosystem, broader sort of partnerships, like consulting related partnerships, that's handled by our, specialized teams.
Right.
Yeah.
But you are involved in Clio Ventures.
Correct. Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of the things that we talked about a year ago, where you weren't quite sure how that might evolve or what might happen with that at that point. You're still trying to kind of think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
First of all, what is Clio Ventures?
So Clio Ventures is Clio's venture fund. We use our own capital. We're not, set up with external investors, and we invest in businesses that are synergistic in multiple ways. Maybe augment our platform, maybe may be able to take advantage of our app ecosystem platform, and third just might be very innovative companies that we see disrupting a certain aspect of legal tech. And we tend to invest early because we want to influence product development or have a say in helping them get to where we think they could best position themselves. We don't take any board seats or sort of any position of governance, and we don't lead the rounds or lead the financings in any way. We come in as sort of a second or third source of capital.
Yeah. So have you made can you give me some estimate of what kinds of investments you've made up to this point?
We've looked at a lot. I think the one we're most proud of and sort of highlighting today is Proof Technologies, which is actually downstairs right now, talking about their integration with Clio. Right,
which for listeners who aren't here, Jack Newton, the CEO, announced this morning that there will be this, going forward, there will be sort of a deeper level of integration with certain third-party apps so that you can actually use and interact with them from directly within the Clio platform.
They're
Proof
embedded.
Is one of the three that you're launching with.
Exactly. So that one stands out. I mean, we probably see an opportunity once every week. There's an opportunity for us to look at. It's there's a whole bunch of things that have to come into play for us to be able to make something work. As I said, there's obviously all the strategic aspects, but then there's the amount of capital and valuation and then kind of where they want to fit in with Clio. And we see lots of fantastic businesses that don't necessarily align with our objectives, and that's fine. Not the
what are you looking for in terms of potential investment? I mean, other than whether or not it's potentially interacts with Clio or not. I mean, how does a founder get your attention or
Well, I think
interest?
What we're looking for is, first of all, typically earlier stage, so seed, even B rounds. But beyond that, it gets a little bit tough for us to influence, just given there's product market fit at that point. Two is we're looking for companies that have built and or are looking to build significant moats, so technology that typically wraps itself around a fairly complicated legal process. Proof is a great example of that. Three is we're looking for a sizable market opportunity. There can be lots of innovation and lots of new things that come across, the transom that deserve to be optimized and have very noble efforts, or objectives. But at the end, they've also got to satisfy an investment criteria in terms of size, so a size of market and opportunity. So
does that mean market outside of legal?
No, but within legal, we can see how that wraps itself either, and it doesn't have to be. I guess the third thing is we're not just looking for U.S. related opportunities either. We would look at anything globally that would satisfy that sort of those ideas that we just talked about, and and if there's synergy with Clio, then great.
Yeah. Again, last time we talked was just as you were coming into this company from another industry entirely.
Yeah.
What's sort of your take on the legal tech market as you've come to know it over the year? What are you seeing here?
Well, there's an enormous number of similarities. But I'd say a couple things, Bob. One is there's a much bigger opportunity here than I think a lot of external analysts and even a lot of individuals within the legal tech industry believe there is. And we've been doing a lot of market sizing work as we've sort of looked at, the opportunity for Clio. And, this is at least for us, a $15 plus $20 billion industry opportunity. Now, we're not going to garner all of that by any means, but there's a fairly sizable opportunity here that I think is what I hear a lot when I talk to institutional investors, at least sort of without them being educated, is that they think that, in some cases this market is somewhat TAM constrained, so that's number one. That's clear. Two is, there is an enormous amount to innovate here, and it's a very complex workflow and ecosystem to innovate around, in the sense that you have obviously international markets, you have state, local, federal sort of legal jurisdictions, and those all have very separate and distinct aspects to them. You've got a whole variety of different legal practice areas size of law firms. So there's no one size fits all, and that makes it both a huge opportunity because the moat, once you're established, can be quite defensible and difficult to assail. But two is it's not for the faint of heart, and I think that's kind of a third observation, or sort of linked to the second, is that those who are here pioneering in legal tech are doing it from a place of being mission driven, because it's not an easy skip into the industry, create your idea and punch out. You really have to do your work, and it's because the workflows and the opportunity is complicated. So those are the things that I would point out. That are somewhat unique. I would say, in general, it's sort of going through the same gyrations as tech is in general, in terms of valuations, focus on amount of capital being raised, what's the capital being used for. A lot of questions right now in the industry is that sort of venture capital's been under, funding's been on a downward trend for the last 3 quarters. M&A has the same dynamic that it does broadly in tech. I would say that right now we're in a period of trying to match expectations in terms of what's a seller's value versus a buyer's value, and that has definitely widened, I would say, in the last 6 to 9 months since I began, just because multiples have contracted pretty substantially in the broader tech world. So those would be very similar observations in terms.
Are the companies that you look at more likely to be companies that are serving either the smaller firm end of the market or access to justice issues, perhaps? I mean, if you look at a bar chart of where all the money is being invested in legal, you're seeing a lot of money going into contracts tech or e-discovery. I mean, some of the big areas that are big firm, big corporate. You don't see quite as much going into maybe some of the smaller firm technology or direct-to-consumer technology. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, and what interests you, or what you're seeing?
Yeah. I mean, we sort of think of the, and Jack has mentioned this a number of times, like the atomic unit of legal work is the document, whatever, or the matter itself, but it manifests itself in the documentation. There's the workflow that obviously is near and dear to our hearts in terms of managing that matter. And then there's payments. And that's how we sort of look at the 3 legs of the stool for Clio. The big market that we don't play in today, and we kind of think about it a lot, is e-discovery. There's a lot of competitors, very large market. And obviously there's a lot of dollars going into that from an investment standpoint. But that's not our area today. It's not to say it's not something we look at in the future. And for us, in terms of focus, one of our big initiatives is to focus on, more mid-market opportunities in the coming year. That's going to be a key area for us. And we're not starting from zero by any means. It's a fairly substantial part of our business, is at least sort of 20% of our business today. Depending on where you define it, it could be as large as 40%, but for conservative sake, it's about 20%. And so we'll continue. We're never going to leave, sort of our core solo practitioner base, and we've got lots of initiatives on that front to continue to innovate and add additional capabilities, like the website builder today in Grow that we announced, which is a fabulous addition for a solo practitioner to be able to even the playing field. But we'll focus up market. There's a lot of innovation still to do there. That market is underserved still, and but the needs are different, and we've got to evolve our product portfolio to meet their needs as we grow.
What about Clio as an investment? I mean, maybe it was last year around this time that Jack was talking, at least hinting at the possibility of an IPO at some point. And I know that I talked to Jack about this on Friday, and he basically said this year kind of shut the door on any of that talk, because this year didn't quite turn out like people thought it might. But what are your thoughts on whether that's something that is or should be in the future for Clio?
Yeah, I think it definitely should be. We clearly, and we do have ambitions to be a public company. That's, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that as clearly as I just did.
Yeah.
Timing is a big issue right now, just because the market seems so unsettled, and so what we're doing is we're continuing to build on the notion of being a 100-year company, investing in all of the things we need to do to be ready to do whatever we need to do with respect to our next financing, and we just hope that when the markets are back, we're in a position to access the markets. I mean, the thing that's most people don't know about Clio is the company's raised $121 million of primary capital, so capital that's been used to fund the business, not shares that have been sold by investors at some point, for secondary sales. And we still, of that $121 million, we still have over $100 million of that on our balance sheet. So the company's been very capital efficient over 14 years, in terms of building its products and its presence in the marketplace. So there's nothing,
You're buying lunch tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah. Well, but it'll be a frugal affair, Bob. But no, it just points to the fact that the company's been very prudent in the way it's spent its capital, and so there's nothing pushing us in either direction. We'll be able to take the company where we want, when we want, and it's a very fortunate position to be in.
Yeah, and again, as you've come into this job over the past year and come to understand more of the company and the market, how do you view kind of Clio's place in the legal tech market and in the practice management market in particular?
Well, we certainly pioneered the space, and we've got a wonderful market position, and we've got a fantastic group of customers that continue to make us better every day through what they need and what they tell us they'd like us to add. So we're in a fantastic spot that way. We don't take anything for granted. There are a number of competitors in this space. They're working hard every day. They've got, financial sponsors and sort of venture capitalists behind them, and they're running hard at various parts of our business or otherwise. And so, that just makes us better. We don't, we're just focused on ensuring that our customers have the best experience and best product possible, and that, we'll create the best company possible for us, at Clio. So I feel really good about where we are, but we're never, sitting on our laurels and thinking that we've won this space, or there's no, it could easily, competitor.
Yeah, well, it's been
nowhere.
interesting just because it has changed a lot over the last couple of years in terms of, what were multiple separately owned players there's been a lot of consolidation, all going under, private equity groups. And I've conjectured a few times that the connecting thread among a lot of these, or the connecting theme, is payments. Because it seems that that has become, thanks to the pandemic, more important than ever, that law firms are able to offer electronic payments. And pretty much all of if you look at the different groupings of practice management companies out there, and you guys launched payments last year, probably just before you came on or something?
That's right. It was launched in November last year.
So does that make sense that payments is sort of part of the connecting thread there in terms of driving?
Absolutely. I think payments is something that is sort of the number two or number one aspect of why a law firm wants to buy an LPM platform or electronic payments is they need to get paid. At the end of the day, they do have people who want to get paid. I do believe, however, though, that, at Clio we do, certainly given where we are in the industry, that the software, though, gives you the right, or the performance of the software is first and foremost in the eyes of the user, in the sense that if your LPM solution isn't doing what it's supposed to do, there's not going to be trust in the payments platform that's being offered along the side. So you can certainly have separate payment platforms. You can certainly have separate LPM platforms. I think together there's a very powerful combination, but it's got to be, the software has to speak for itself first, and then payments is an addition that really helps, the law firm, I think capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah. What else are you working on these days? What else is interesting you? What are you thinking about?
Well, we're in the middle of our yearly planning for next year, which is an interesting process because we've got all of these incredible macroeconomic sort of satellites spinning around, wondering when some of these might hit, whether we're going to go into a recession. Are we going to see inflation continue to increase? Are we going to see spending on the part of legal firms change than what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years? Where will we see that first? Are we going to see that in our payments business? Are we going to see it in our matter creation, within our, all of our customer portfolios? And so, we're spending a lot of time on that aspect. We're looking at, continuing to look at investments as we sort of progress through this year and next year. And we've got a number of key initiatives that we have
Investments
underway.
does that equal acquisitions as well? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's things that we're looking at that, as we always are.
Yeah.
And it's a market where you have to stay close to the things you care about, both on the venture and the acquisition side, because opinions and views change very quickly given the volatility in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, Curt, it's great catching up almost a year into your job now, and I'll track you down again next year at this event.
Thanks, Bob.
And get your update then.
It's been
Thanks
great.
for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Great to see you.